This is episode 36 of the After Gambling podcast. In this episode, I'll talk about do things get better as time goes on. Hey there, and welcome to the After Gambling podcast. My name is Jamie. I am a compulsive gambler, and I'm also the host of the show. The last time I gambled was July 15th of 2010. Today I wanted to tackle a very tough topic, and it's something that I won't say that I've avoided it, but it's something that I really wasn't sure how to handle. And it's the question of, do things get better? Do the urges go away? Do the thoughts of gambling just disappear over time? Does the depression go away? Does the anxiety go away? All those things that we really feel and that really kind of beat down on us early on, especially in recovery. And it's the things that we hope that there's a better tomorrow. Otherwise, why are we doing this? And the reason that I say I'm hesitant to do so is because, no, it's not a perfect future. I'll say up front, I still struggle with thoughts, urges. They're not very strong at this point, but they're still there. And yes, I still think back about money that's lost. I think about lost time. And those things, as much as I try to stay in the present and try and stay focused just on today, it's inevitable that our minds start to wander and we start to go back in time and we look back with regret, with shame, and all those types of things. So I guess I'll just start off by saying that yes, those things still exist in the future. And this probably isn't what you wanted to hear. You probably wanted to hear me say, after 8 years, don't have any thoughts, don't have any urges. All of my money issues are gone. I don't think at all about the past, and that pretty much all of it's water under the bridge. Relationships are all healed. Everything is just perfect 8 years later. And that would be the thing that I would love to tell you. I'd love to tell you that that is the future in 8 years or in 3 years or whatever your timetable is. But I also want to be real with you. And I want to tell you that no, those things, like I say, they still linger on. Now, I think I've said this before, but if I haven't, let me reiterate. Gambling has had an impact on every day of my life for probably the last 17 or 18 years. Basically, half of my life has been some impact from gambling. So, at this point, you might be thinking, well, this wasn't exactly how I expected this episode to go. But I don't want you to lose hope. I don't want you to get off track. Because I think the next thing that I'm going to say is the most important takeaway from all of this. And it's that while I still have thoughts, I still have urges, I still struggle with the past, all of those things are at a fraction, a very, very, very small fraction of the problems that I would be having if I was continuing to gamble. Or if today I just decide, you know what, I still struggle with all these things. So if I'm going to struggle, I might as well do it while gambling. No. Going back to gambling or if I would have continued to gamble would have made all of these problems much, much worse. 10 times worse, 100 times worse, 1,000 times worse, 1,000,000 times worse. Whatever that percentage is, let's just say it's extreme. The problems I'm experiencing today are very, very, very small in the great scheme of things when it comes to compulsive gambling. I would not trade. I would not go back. I don't want to trade my problems that I have today for the problems that I would have today or tomorrow if I started gambling again. And so I think that's the one thing that we really have to focus on. Going back to a life without gambling, and that's a fantasy as well. We don't know what that would have looked like. If we had never gotten involved with gambling. Maybe we would have gotten involved in something else. Or maybe our lives wouldn't have been as easy as we thought they would be. Sure, we introduced a new harm, but at this point we've also learned from it. We're on the other side of it, and I do believe that success and peace and all these types of things are on the other side of struggle in many cases. And so we've kind of gone through the struggle. We've paid the price to now get to the place where life is easier. And I think that's a good word, easier. Because no life is free of pain. No life is free of struggle. That was a big takeaway from Mark Manson's book, The Subtle Art of Not Giving Enough. And it's so true that we don't get to choose a life with no problems. We simply get to choose which problems we want to have in our life. And at this point, I will gladly take the problems that I have, which are dealing with the occasional thought or urge, or dealing with the thought of, man, what would my bank account look like if I didn't gamble? And even though that's a daily thing, it's a small piece of each day. It's there. It lingers. It's the thing that, I don't know. It's the good and the bad, right? The bad is that it can bring you back. It can bring you down. But the good is that I do keep that reminder there so that I enjoy the problems that I have, not the problems that I would create if I decided that, no, it wasn't worth it anymore, then I was going to go back to gambling. So what problems are we going to choose? That's really what it comes down to. So when you get into the times where you're struggling, where you're feeling down, where you're getting a bunch of thoughts or urges, or you just feel like, man, if this is as good as it gets, maybe I should go back to gambling. Think of this episode and think of, yes, but what would my life look like if I went back to gambling? Which problems would I be dealing with then? Today I'm dealing with these problems, which I know, and I think it is the grass always appears greener on the other side. And when we really play it out in our head and tell ourselves the full story, we know that the problems we're going to create are exponential. Sure, the highs may be a little higher with gambling, but they're short-lived highs, and they come with equally devastating lows. And so living a life that's kind of a little more in the middle and the fluctuations are small are much better off than the life where we had these extreme highs, but also these extreme lows. So I'm not going to make this a long episode. I'm going to wrap it up with that. And I just want to say thanks again for letting me share, because this is something that's been kind of in my head and on my heart for a long time of, do I tell people the full truth, which I try to be extremely transparent. I think you know that at this point. And it's something that I never wanted to paint a picture that wasn't realistic of the future. But I also didn't want to discourage you, because I could see how listening to this could be discouraging. But hopefully, in listening to the whole episode, you kind of understand where I'm coming from, and that I'm not discouraged. My problems, like I say, are so much better. I just need to remind myself that my problems are so much better. And that's kind of the tricky thing. That's where we can fall into the pit of thinking that our problems with gambling would be just equal to the problems that we have without it. And that's just simply not true. It's not factual. And when we really sit down and look at it and think about it, we realize that the problems that we have and that we will continue to deal with because of our gambling disorder are minor problems in the overall scope of things. I mean, I always like to liken it to getting treatment. If we had some other disease, would it be a problem and an annoyance to go through the therapy, to go see the doctors? Wouldn't it be better to live a life without that? Of course. But going to the doctors and taking our medicine is a whole lot better than going back to the pain and the suffering that we have in a disease. And that's what this is. So hopefully this makes a lot of sense. Hang in there. Like I say, in those tough times, remember that the problems that we have, we don't get to choose a life with no problems. We just get to choose the problems that we want or that we have. And so the problems of not gambling are far, far better than the problems with gambling. So with that, I will leave you. And then finally, remember, I'm not a doctor. I'm not an attorney. I'm not a lawyer. With all these things, go seek out professional help. You deserve it. This is a serious disorder. Everybody's situation is a little bit different. And so, I mean, if you listen to this and you feel like, hey, man, I'm struggling. Like, I need some help. I'm feeling really, really down. Go talk to a therapist. I promise you it helps. It helps to get that weight off of you. And I liken it to kind of paying somebody to take your trash away. Because we don't want to put our trash on our friends or our family. And so the therapist, there's that distance that we can share all of our struggles, and they can kind of take that trash, that weight off of us in a place that's healthy and productive for everyone. So please go see a professional, get help with this. It's very serious and you deserve it. And then finally, music for the show is Something Elated by Broke Free and is licensed under the Creative Commons license. Thanks for listening, and I will see you in the next episode.